Richard took the shot glass out of Robert's hand and threw it out the window.
Steven Spielberg, I find quite confused in his recollection of me.
Steven Spielberg represents childhood wonder made manifest. For 5 decades, he has crafted stories that define how the world sees adventure, family, and the magical possibilities hidden within ordinary life. His films have shaped generations, his name synonymous with quality entertainment that transcends age and culture. But behind the fairy tale's success lies a more complicated truth. Some of the actors who helped create those dreams couldn't stand the man behind them. Working with Spielberg isn't just a career opportunity, it's supposed to be a rite of passage, a chance to collaborate with cinema's most beloved storyteller.
And I have always envied filmmakers like Scorsese, who make quintessential Scorsese pictures.
But several performers discovered that the reality of making movies with their childhood hero fell far short of their expectations. They found a director more concerned with technical perfection than emotional connection, a filmmaker who prioritized efficiency over artistry, a man who treated actors like components in his elaborate mechanical creations. These weren't simple creative disagreements or typical on-set tensions. These were profound personal disappointments, moments when meeting your hero revealed uncomfortable truths about both of you. The actors who clashed with Spielberg didn't just dislike his methods. They felt betrayed by the gap between his public image and private reality. They discovered that the man who created wonder for millions had very little magic left for the people who helped him do it. 6. Julia Roberts. Julia Roberts arrived on the Hook set in 1991 as Hollywood's reigning queen, fresh off the massive success of Pretty Woman. She was also falling apart. Her engagement to Kiefer Sutherland had imploded publicly. Tabloids were dissecting her every move, and she was struggling with the pressures of sudden superstardom. She needed a supportive director who could guide her through the storm. Instead, she got Steven Spielberg. Spielberg operated his sets like clockwork, demanding punctuality and preparation from every performer. Roberts showed up late, unprepared, and emotionally volatile. She would disappear between takes, require multiple attempts to complete scenes, and seem more focused on her personal drama than her professional responsibilities. Spielberg, accustomed to actors who treated his projects as sacred opportunities, grew increasingly frustrated.
Steve did a terrific draft, and we were developing the draft, but I hadn't read the script yet.
The tension reached a breaking point when Roberts missed an entire day of shooting without explanation, forcing Spielberg to rearrange the schedule around her absence. When she finally appeared, she offered no apology and seemed surprised by the production team's irritation. Spielberg reportedly told his assistant director that working with Roberts felt like babysitting a hurricane. Roberts later described the experience as one of the worst of her career, claiming that Spielberg made her feel unwelcome and judged during the most difficult period of her life. She expected understanding and compassion from the director who had created E.T. Instead, she found a businessman who prioritized efficiency over empathy. Spielberg, for his part, publicly stated that he would never work with Roberts again, describing her as unprofessional and unreliable. Two icons of 1990s entertainment had created magic on screen while despising each other behind the cameras. 5. Dustin Hoffman. Dustin Hoffman approached every role like an archaeological dig, excavating layers of psychological truth from characters that other actors might play at surface level. When he joined Hook as the villainous Captain Hook, he expected to explore the depths of a man consumed by vengeance and obsession. Steven Spielberg wanted him to twirl his mustache and look menacing for the children in the audience.
The movie ends and reality begins.
It happened last year when I was in production on 2 movies at the same time, Poltergeist and E.T.
The collision was inevitable from day one. Hoffman arrived with notebooks full of character research, questions about Hook's motivations, and theories about how childhood trauma might have shaped the pirate's worldview. He wanted to understand why Hook hated Peter Pan so intensely, what drove his obsession, and how that psychology should inform every gesture and line delivery. Spielberg had no patience for this level of introspection. He needed Hook to be a theatrical villain who could balance comedy and menace without requiring extensive backstory explanations. When Hoffman began questioning the logic of scenes or requesting time to develop emotional beats, Spielberg would cut him off with technical directions about camera angles, and special effects timing. The breaking point came when Hoffman spent 30 minutes explaining his interpretation of Hook's relationship with Tinkerbell before Spielberg interrupted him. "Dustin, just be scary and funny. The kids don't need Freud." Hoffman felt reduced to a cartoon character, treated like a performer rather than an artist. 4. Sean Bean. Sean Bean built his reputation portraying men destroyed by war, violence, and moral complexity. His performances in films like Patriot Games and GoldenEye revealed an actor capable of finding humanity within brutality, depth within destruction. Multiple opportunities arose for Bean to join Spielberg's stable of regular performers, from war epics to adventure films. Each time, Bean walked away, citing fundamental disagreements with Spielberg's approach to serious subject matter.
Steve and I had gone to Poland together. We went to Krakow. We went to all the actual sites of the Holocaust there.
Bean's primary grievance centered on what he perceived as Spielberg's sanitization of violence and trauma. Having researched extensively for military roles, Bean believed that depicting warfare required unflinching honesty about its psychological toll. He viewed Spielberg's tendency to find hope and redemption within historical tragedies as artistically dishonest and morally questionable. The philosophical divide became clear during early discussions for Saving Private Ryan. Bean was considered for multiple roles but declined after reading the script, reportedly telling associates that Spielberg had turned the horrors of D-Day into inspirational entertainment. He felt that the director's need to provide emotional catharsis diminished the true cost of war. Bean's criticism extended beyond war films to Spielberg's entire filmography. He saw a pattern of emotional manipulation disguised as storytelling, arguing that Spielberg crafted responses rather than earning them through honest character development. Bean preferred directors who trusted audiences to find their own meaning, rather than being guided toward predetermined feelings. Their mutual avoidance became an open secret in Hollywood. Bean continued seeking roles that challenged audiences rather than comforting them, while Spielberg built his legacy on providing solace through spectacle. Bean respected Spielberg's technical mastery, but questioned whether true artistry could coexist with such calculated crowd-pleasing. 3rd, Marlon Brando. Marlon Brando watched Steven Spielberg's rise with the bemused contempt of a master observing a talented apprentice who had never learned humility. Throughout the 1970s and 1980s, as Spielberg transformed from promising newcomer to industry titan,
Before Back to the Future, did it have a most famous use?
It was used, I think, to kill a mockingbird shot a little bit here.
Brando became increasingly vocal about his disdain for what he saw as technically proficient but emotionally hollow filmmaking. Brando's antipathy wasn't rooted in jealousy, but in philosophy. He had revolutionized screen acting by bringing psychological realism to artificial environments, transforming how performers approach their craft. Spielberg, in Brando's estimation, had reversed that progress by reducing actors to elements within elaborate technical puzzles. Where Brando sought truth, Spielberg manufactured wonder. The animosity crystallized during the late 1970s when both men were at career peaks. Brando had just completed Apocalypse Now with Francis Ford Coppola, while Spielberg was riding high from Jaws and Close Encounters. In interviews, Brando began making pointed comments about directors who prioritized special effects over human complexity, clearly targeting Spielberg without naming him directly. The most devastating blow came when Brando publicly dismissed Spielberg as a boy playing with expensive toys who mistakes technical competence for artistic vision. He suggested that Spielberg's films were sophisticated theme park rides rather than genuine cinema, designed to distract audiences from reality rather than illuminate it. Spielberg never responded directly to Brando's attacks, but industry insiders noted his visible discomfort whenever Brando's comments were mentioned. The two never worked together despite repeated studio attempts to pair them, each representing fundamentally incompatible approaches to the art and business of filmmaking. 2nd, Klaus Kinski. Klaus Kinski possessed the kind of volcanic intensity that could ignite screens or incinerate entire productions. His reputation for explosive behavior was matched only by his undeniable talent for creating unforgettable villains. When casting began for Raiders of the Lost Ark, Kinski seemed perfect for a Nazi antagonist who could match Harrison Ford's charismatic archaeologist with pure, malevolent energy. The screen test lasted exactly 47 minutes before everything exploded. Kinski arrived, treating the audition like a formality, expecting to be handed the role based on his reputation alone. When Spielberg began offering direction during the reading, suggesting adjustments to line delivery and character interpretation,
I had to make the movie because I didn't want to miss the winter in Poland. I didn't want to have to wait a whole year because they had to be shot in the snow.
Kinski's famous temper reached critical mass. He viewed direction as interference, collaboration as weakness, and Spielberg's suggestions as personal insults to his artistic autonomy. Spielberg watched this meltdown with clinical fascination, later describing it as performance art masquerading as a psychotic break. When Kinski stormed out, he told waiting reporters that Spielberg was a kindergarten teacher with a camera who mistakes competence for genius. The role went to Ronald Lacey, who understood that effective screen villainy required control rather than chaos. Kinski continued his pattern of brilliant performances and personal destruction, while Spielberg learned that some actors were too dangerous to contain within even his most carefully managed productions. 1. Shia LaBeouf. Shia LaBeouf grew up worshiping Steven Spielberg. The boy who had starred in Even Stevens dreamed of becoming the next Harrison Ford, carrying forward the tradition of Spielberg's adventure heroes. When LaBeouf was cast as Mutt Williams in Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, it felt like destiny was fulfilled. The collaboration destroyed both their relationship and LaBeouf's faith in his childhood idol. LaBeouf arrived expecting mentorship from the man who had shaped his cinematic imagination. Instead, he found a distant professional who treated him like any other hired performer. Spielberg showed no interest in nurturing LaBeouf's development or sharing the wisdom that had created decades of beloved entertainment.
And I've never felt that of myself. I never felt I had a style. I always felt that I was styleless.
The young actor felt abandoned by someone he had idolized since childhood. The relationship imploded when LaBeouf publicly criticized Crystal Skull in interviews, calling it disappointing and suggesting that Spielberg had lost touch with what made Indiana Jones special. He accused his former hero of prioritizing commercial obligations over creative integrity, essentially suggesting that Spielberg had betrayed his own legacy. Spielberg's response was silence, but the message was clear. LaBeouf was permanently exiled from the Spielberg universe. The young actor had learned that meeting your heroes can destroy not just your illusions about them, but your illusions about yourself and the industry that shaped your dreams. Some actors discovered that working with legends reveals uncomfortable truths about both sides. In Spielberg's world, the magic happens despite personal relationships, not because of them. Sometimes childhood heroes are better left unmet,